Beck. I am the founder of Let's Go to College Educational Consultants and the host of the How Do I Get That Job podcast. And today I am going to be playing Skyrim. I just finished the tutorial portion. I know that really the tutorial ends at level 5 after you do everything in Whiterun, but I'm not going to Whiterun. I'm going to just go straight to the College of Winterhold. How appropriate. I'm playing as a Breton, a male. And I'm kind of just maxing everything right now just until something sticks out. I've got a little bit of conjuration, a little bit of destruction, one-handed, and then we'll see where it goes. I know, it's like an 11-year-old game, 13-year-old game at this point. Came out on 11/11/11, so, 8. It's only 8 years old? That's crazy. Okay. So bear with me while I pull up the link to this stream and throw it on Amino. This is actually going to be a stream where I answer some questions from my AMA that I had on the College Advice Amino. I started that on Tuesday of this week. It's now Friday. So let's see. I've gotten about 3 or 4 days worth of questions. 3 days. All right. This is live right now. 3. Oh, wow. I'm like right behind myself. Okay. That's what I sound like? I feel so bad for you guys. Okay. Copy link. Amino. All right, let's see if anybody pays attention to that. I love Amino. It's a really cool app, but it seems to draw people from like all over the world. So response times are definitely done in a bunch of different time zones. So I definitely have some people that are here on the East Coast along with me, and they can respond like that. And then there's other people that are messaging me at 4 a.m. not my time when it's probably like, oh, I just got out of school because it's 2 or 3 in the afternoon over here in Japan. Which, don't worry, I'm very happy to answer all of your questions. It's kind of funny the way that the internet can connect people from all across the world. All right. So let's see if that gets any business. And, all right. Yeah, cool. So, the first question that I want to answer, and we'll get started as soon as I read it. This is from a person that actually doesn't want to be giving credit, so I'm not going to say their name or anything, but they asked, how long does it normally take to get a decision on your application if it's on a rolling basis? So if you're applying to a college that has rolling admissions, how long does it usually take for you to get that back? And I would say that it really depends on the school. So you have schools, I'm not going to shoot them. You have schools that use their timing, getting back to you in a timely manner, quote unquote, as a sales tactic, right? So if they get back to you faster than somebody else does, then you might decide to go with them instead of going with somebody else. Stop talking to me. What is this?
Never should have come here.
Oh, hi there.
Time to finish this.
And this is why Skyrim's the best, because you can literally just stop time,
Had time to get lost, friend.
drop your conjuration, and start killing bandits.
That, were you?
So, like I said, they use that timing as a way to kind of not make you, because nobody can make you decide to go to a school, but as a reasoning that you might want to go to that college instead of another. Oh, they got back to me in like a week or 2 weeks, that means that they really, really want me. I mean, it could. I'm not saying that you're not desirable as a student or anything, but, at the end of the day, they're trying to get as many students, hey, treasure map, cool, as they possibly can. So they'll turn around and give you like 2 weeks. And sometimes that's what you'll get on a rolling school, is like 2 to 4 weeks turnaround on your application. But sometimes you won't hear 12. It's like 3 months, basically, right? And it's a long time to be sitting there and waiting. Well, there's a couple things. One, just like people like to use getting back to you really fast as a way to kind of draw you to that school, sometimes taking a long time to answer you can also be a draw too, right? So like, oh, you took 12 weeks to make a decision on me, you had 23,000 applications you had to go through. Man, I must be real special. And you totally could be. But, also a sales tactic, right? So, ooh, good stuff. Apothecary. No, it's not apothecary satchel. It's just a regular one. That's fine. Like every other Skyrim player on the planet, I have too much stuff. So let's start off by leather... Magicka or stamina? Oh, we'll do stamina. I'm almost to my next level anyway, right? So Conjuration's already at level 25, so let's half that. Sweet. So, taking 12 weeks to hear back. But 12 weeks is a long time to wait, right? So what I would recommend is after like a month, 4 weeks, maybe 6, if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Call the college up and just make sure that they have your application. Because I can't tell you how
These
many
are the guardian
times...
stones. 3 of the 13 ancient standing stones that dot
Hush.
Skyrim's landscape. Mage, eh? Well, to each his own. It's not for me to judge.
So, if you haven't heard from them in like 4 or 6 weeks, call them up, because I can't tell you how many times I've had students call and be like, hey, what's taking you guys so long to get back to me? Well, let me check the computer here for you. And I check the computer and I realize they never submitted their application. And they get all upset because, yes, they hit send on Common App and the application got sent. Cool. You never sent us your SAT scores. You never sent us your high school transcripts. You literally just sent us an application. That is not how to send an application to somebody, right? You have to have everything that that school wants. So say they require that you have the GPA, your high school transcripts. Every college, I feel pretty confident saying every college, will require that you have that. Then you have your SAT or ACT scores. Some schools will require that you take those tests. Some schools are test optional, right? But they still require that you check a box on the application, fill out some paperwork, do something to signal that you want to be test optional rather than just not sending the SATs. It really depends on the college at that point, whether they want to accept your application as completed or not. But, it's better to be safe than sorry. Call them up and find out, right? You also have the essays. Let's keep playing. You also have your essays. So if they require that you do an essay, then it is required for you to send it in before your application can be completed. It just is. It's their rule, right? Not every college is going to require that. Some of them will. Make sure you know their rules. If you haven't heard back, and now the original question was rolling admissions, right? So some schools only take applications between like August 1st and January 15th. I don't want to say most, a good number of them do it that way. But there's also a good number of schools that will do, oh, it's my familiar. I thought I was being attacked. There are also rolling admission schools, meaning that you can apply any time of year as long as you're like a week or two before classes start, right? So you could apply on August 1st of 2019 to start classes August 30th of 2019, right? Is this Pine Watch? Oh no, Agnes's cabin. Are you?
I'm just a poor old woman, dear. No need to trouble yourself with me.
Oh, I know this chick. This is
It's tough just scraping
vampire
by, dear,
lady.
but I make do.
This is the vampire lady. Okay. How do I make her attack me so this isn't murder? There we go. Of course. Boom. We're in. All right. Ooh, creepy. Danger Heart. Word. Okay. I gotta get back to the point. So if they're rolling emissions, you can apply any time of year, right? As long as you do it before classes start. Helga, dear, why do you hesitate? You can feel the power coursing in your blood. You have only to reach out and grasp it. Renounce that boy of yours and come live with me in the forest. My sister will be here soon. Together we can form a proper coven and your training will truly begin. Okay. Well, you know what? I am stealing a bunch of your stuff. Do I have anything to disenchant? Oh, I do. And you provide, like, no armor or magic resist, so we're just going to disenchant, right? So, if you apply, you can usually expect to hear back within, like, 2, maybe 3 weeks. And the reason for that is they have a constant flow of applications rather than just August to January. So they have applications that come in and out all the time.
What do you think you're doing?
Oh. Come here. Die. There we go. Well, I guess. We'll do stamina again just because I like to carry a bunch of stuff. So, say you apply in... I'm going to pause it real quick because I want to get through this question so we can get to the next one. You know, you have colleges where you can only apply August to January. And you have most applications for those schools coming in between, like, October 15th and November 15th. So between Columbus Day and Thanksgiving, right? And that's because most guidance counselors say that's the best time to do it because they know they're going to be waiting like at least 6 weeks, if not longer, to hear back. You'll probably hear back by January or even, you know, end of December, Christmas, Hanukkah, high holidays during the winter. You know, so it's a nice little present for you at the end of the year. And then January 15th, they get another burst, right? Because everybody's just trying to get their applications in before the deadline, right? And some rolling admission schools will actually have a January 15th deadline if you want merit-based scholarships. So if you're relying on a scholarship, make sure that you apply before January 15th. That kind of as like a rule of thumb across the board, right? I really like the Pittsburgh shirt. If you can't tell, I have way underdiagnosed ADHD. Anyway, and I say underdiagnosed because I've never actually gone and gotten checked. So rolling admissions don't have that problem. Rolling admissions schools, I should say. Because you can apply in August, you can apply in January, October, November, December, and then after January 15th, you can even apply in March or April. You know, most schools require that you have the decision deadline of May 1st. So a lot of schools will just stop taking applications in April. We don't have time to read them. You don't have time to make a decision. It's not worth sending it in April. Sorry. But rolling admissions is different. Because of that, their timing is spaced out a little bit differently from all the other schools. So I would expect to hear back about 2 to 4 weeks from a rolling admissions school from the time you submit your application, as long as the application is actually completed. All right. Next question. And this comes from Saiko, Saiko, Saiko. My school offers little to no extracurriculars, and I only had one leadership position, and I joined one extracurricular so far. I'll be changing schools this year, and the school has a lot of extracurriculars, but I don't want colleges to think that I'm just joining these activities just for the sake of the colleges, for the sake of your application. Is there a way to explain this problem to them? I mean, you can. You know, the college essay is a great place for you to talk about, changing school districts and the hardships that come with that. But at the end of the day, like, we're going to see what your transcript says, right? So if you were, ninth grade and 10th grade, you were in one school, and then you were in another school in 11th grade and 12th grade, it's pretty clear to us why you joined those organizations. Sure, it probably had something to do with going to college. Sure. But it also had a lot to do with going to a new school district and being the new kid and trying to make some friends. Like, nobody's going to fault you for trying to do new things on a new school.
I've been hunting
There's
and
really
fishing in
no
these parts for
need to
years.
explain it.
It's
Can I
not
sell
like
you
my
stuff?
poaching is hurting anyone. The Jarl can hardly eat every deer now, can he? Take a look.
Alright. Can I give you... Oh, I can only give you that stuff. Alright.
All right, then.
Am I gonna steal your stuff? Yeah, there's nobody in the chat with me, so I'm not gonna ask
There's
if
enough for
they
all of us if you aren't
want me
greedy.
to be a thief or not. Oh, I don't have a pickaxe yet. Darn. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty easy question to answer. You don't have to worry about it too much. I wouldn't be too caught up in the idea that, oh, I'm only doing it for college. Like, if you are only doing it for colleges, maybe don't do it, Like, do something you actually enjoy. And extracurriculars don't have to be through your school. They can be through your community. They can be volunteering at a local or community-based organization, some kind of youth group, helping out at a preschool if they let you do that where you live. It kind of depends state by state. Give me salmon. Come here. But you can also use a job as an extracurricular activity. If you have something that you do during the winter or during the summer or after schools, nights, weekends, whatever, that is definitely an extracurricular activity. It's something that you're doing extra to the curriculum you're learning at school. It's literally what extracurricular means. Some people will tell you don't put a job. I am telling you. It's up to you. Nobody's going to say that it's a bad extracurricular. And honestly, if it's your only extracurricular, it might answer some questions like, why are their grades a little bit lower? Or, hey, why are they not having any other extracurriculars? Well, it's because they have a full-time job because they got to take care of their family. Like, it is what it is.
Warning you. Back off.
Scavenger.
Never should have come here.
Goodbye. I really need to find somebody I can sell this stuff to. I also need a partner. Maybe I should go get Lydia. What should I scrap? Those. Yeah. You know what? I'm just gonna go with light armor because I can always use magic as a way to... that's worth keeping. Toss that. Yeah. There we go. Extracurriculars are anything that you do outside of school, so don't let anybody tell you that a job is not an extracurricular activity. Totally is. Is that my guy? Okay. Alright, so we'll just pause right here real quick and we'll answer another question. Okay. This is from Su Jong. Soo space Jeong. Sujong. I'm assuming Korean. Maybe. I'm not an expert. Hello. I was wondering if psychology is a hard major to get into college with. Like, is it really impacted like engineering and business? So I had to kind of tease out more questions to figure out exactly what she meant. But essentially, is psychology easier to get into college with than business or engineering? And the short answer is yes. The long answer is that psychology doesn't have a lot of the same requirements that a come here. There we go. That a really math-heavy major like business or engineering is going to have. So psychology, you could potentially, I'm not saying this is true of every psychology program, but, you know, by and large, and basically any answer to any question I give you is going to be by and large. It's not, unless you're asking me specifically about a specific place, and then I'll do my research to know for sure. Who's fighting me? Come here.
What was that? It's a bad time to get lost, friend.
It's what you want, huh?
So,
Nothing.
oh. Well, it's been a while since I played this game. Apparently I'm bad.
Go ahead, try and fight back.
Okay.
You won't live to see tomorrow.
Give up while you still can.
Goodbye. So, psychology. It doesn't have a lot of the same requirements that you would need going into like a hard sciences major or an engineering major or even just business, because they're going to need calculus classes where you can take an entire psychology course and then get your bachelor's in psychology without ever taking a single calc course, you know, by and large here. So because of that, you know, a lot of engineering and business programs require that you take at least pre-calculus, if not full-on calc, before you even apply to college, right? So that's obviously a harder requirement. Now, I don't want to say that psychology is an easier major than business or engineering, because it just requires a different kind of thinking. You know, you can be a very... Why is my phone doing stupid stuff? Go away. You can be a really introverted person who's really good at math and science, and you can get into an engineering program really easily, and then somebody puts you in a psychology program or a social work program where you have to be in tune with other people, and you're done for, right? So, you know, it's just a different major. It's not a easier major, it's not a harder major, it's just different major. But also psychology is not similar to some of what we would call the hard sciences, right? So, and what I mean by that are like biochemistry, physics, that kind of stuff. Because those types of majors have really intense labs that have certain criteria set by accreditation boards, not even set by the college. So, like, you can only have, say, 12 students in a lab, right? Where you at? So if you have 12 students in a lab, you know, say you have 5 TAs, that's 60 students in a lab, or in a class. Where Psych 101 in a lot of colleges can be upwards of 200 to 400 different students. That's a lot of students. 60 compared to 400, right? So you can accept a lot more students into a psychology major than you can an engineering or a business or a or a chemistry, biochemistry, because of the requirements inside the major itself, inside the classes and the labs. So, because of just the sheer difference in numbers, it's easier to get into a psych major. Doesn't mean that it's an easy major, that it's not as important. It just means that there's less hurdles to jump through, right? Alright, next question while this loads. This is from Peach. I'll be applying to colleges next year, but I haven't got volunteering because my country, so this is an international student, doesn't really have many options. How do I tell admissions officers this? So this is a two-part question. The first part is, if your country doesn't really do volunteering, that's okay. You know, we as admissions counselors on the international side, we get applications from all over the place. So we kind of, and if we don't know that particular place, say you're applying from Albania, it's not a super popular country to be coming to the U.S. as an international student from. It happens. There's plenty of students that come talk to me from Albania. But it's not as popular as, like, students from China, or students from Saudi Arabia, or students from Japan, South Korea, India, all those different places that you typically think of as an international student, right? So even if we don't know, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt, right? But also, part of the reason we give you the benefit of the doubt is because you're going to have a lot of other things you have to do in order to just be accepted, right? You, as an international student, are going to have to complete the TOEFL or the IELTS to prove that you are proficient in English. You're going to have a certain test score on that. On average, it's anywhere between like 55 to, or it's like a 75 to 90 on the TOEFL and a 5.5 to a 7 on the IELTS. Some schools are higher, some schools are lower, but that's like the median range. The other thing that you're going to have to do is have your transcripts accredited and translated by WES. WES is World Educational Services, and basically they are just a third-party organization that validates what you're saying. Because anybody can go, with today's technology and everything, anybody can go online and find a template for a high school in South Korea and falsify a document on Photoshop. Anyone can do it. WES's job is to make sure that you're not doing that, that the grades that you have are appropriate, and then translate it into English to make it easy for us Americans to understand. America's like the only country in the world that doesn't know at least 2 languages. I don't get it either. So, the third thing that you're going to need to do, and this is the thing that instantaneously turns a lot of students off for being an international student here in the U.S., is that you're going to have to prove that you have a certain amount of money liquid in the bank, in cash, ready to go. Maybe not necessarily you, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your uncle, whoever's willing to be your sponsor, right? And usually that is at least 1 year's tuition and room and board fees. But it also can be, the entirety. Oh, let's watch this guy die. Goodbye. Derp. I should have killed him for the XP, but meh. So, yeah, it can also be an entire college career. It can be all 4 years of your undergraduate that you have to be able to prove you can pay for, which is really hard for some students. It's hard for most students. I can't do that, and I live here. So, in order for you to get your I-20, which is what you're going to need to get your student visa, to get your F1 or your J1, you're going to have to do that. Is it fair? Probably not, but at the same time, they're basically making sure that you're not going to stiff them. And what I mean by that is that you're not going to, come get a free education and then jet back home and not pay for it. Here in the U.S., we have to pay for our educations. Maybe one day that'll change. Today's not that day. So, ooh, potion. Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. All right. the lever. For anyone that hasn't played this game before and doesn't know what I just did, snake, snake, fallen gravel, that's the piece, snake, snake, whale, whale. Hit the lever, no longer poison arrows. Ooh, thief. Alright, before we jump down here and battle some more people, let's answer some more questions. Okay, so this is from Kylie, and it says, how many colleges should one apply to? Ooh, one, instead of me or you. Somebody knows their English. I'm thinking of 25, since college admissions is becoming really hard these past couple of years. My initial reaction, I'm just going to read it so that you guys can hear it. No! Why? That's nearly $1,900 in application fees alone. 25 schools at $75 a piece for applications. I mean, that's an average. Sometimes they're lower. Sometimes you can get a fee waiver. That's fine. You know, if you don't want to pay for it, there's ways to not pay for it. But by and large, you're going to have to pay for each application you put in. Maybe not dropping $2,000 on it is... let's put it this way. For all of my services, for me to help you with your SATs, for me to help you with your essay, for me to help you with your application, for me to follow up with colleges on your behalf, for me to plan college tours for you, for me to reach out to coaches for you, and a bunch of other services that I provide, all as one package for an entire year, is $1,500. You'd be spending more than that on application fees alone applying to 25 schools. If you have that kind of money to drop, come talk to me. I'm very happy and eager to help. I'm taking on new clients. What you should do, especially if you're an American student applying to American schools, you should have about 10 different applications. And I'll jump into that as we're going down here. Those 10 applications should be broken up into like 3 or 4 different criteria. The first would be like 2 different schools that are safety schools. Community colleges maybe. Maybe it's just a school that you know based on your GPA and SAT that you're going to get into. And you can basically figure out what schools you're going to get into based on the GPA and SAT requirements. Now, I'm pausing because I want to make this very clear. You can know it based on your GPA and SAT requirements across the board, not for a specific major. Now, if you call the college and say, hey, what do I need in terms of GPA, SAT, and classes, because that's really important for some majors. Like I said in an earlier question, if you're an engineering or a business student, you may have to take pre-calculus or even calculus to get in. If you don't do that, you're not getting in for that major. You could have a perfect 1600 SAT and have a 4.3 GPA on a 4.0 scale because you're taking all sorts of APs and IBs and your GPA's weighted. But if you don't have pre-calc, you're not getting in that major. They're going to admit you to general studies or maybe something else, your second choice major, whatever, but you're not getting that major no matter how smart you are because you weren't smart enough to ask beforehand and figure out what classes you had to take. So make sure you know all of the classes that you need. But as long as you have all those classes, whatever their average GPA and SAT are, if you meet that, you're probably going to get in. There are other schools that are super selective in T20s, and that's another question I'm going to get into a little bit later. I have to finish this question. Just know that T20 schools anger me on like a deep level. So have 2 safety schools that you exceed their expectations. Then have 5 schools that are kind of at at your level, right? So you may be just below what their average student is. You may be just above it. You may be have the same exact SAT, ACT, GPA that student or that they're looking for in a student, right?
Is someone coming?
Oh yeah, I'm coming. I'm gonna kill you, buddy. Give me some bone meal. Oh, I'll take gold. That's fine.
No, not again. No. Get it away from me. Get it away. Keep it away from me.
So,
Keep it away from me.
have 2 safety schools, 5 schools that you're like right on par with, and then have another 2 schools that are reach schools. So, you know, you may be like 200 SAT points or like 3 or 4 ACT points below what their average student is, but maybe your GPA is kind of high enough that it outweighs that, maybe, or maybe it's vice versa. You know, people are super smart, but life happens, you know, and it affects, you know, the motto for any holistic review, and you're going to hear that phrase holistic from a lot of colleges. The motto of any holistic school is that we care more about 3.5 years worth of schoolwork instead of a 3.5 hour long SAT test. And that's true. But in some situations, you have a student who is very smart that was going through a lot of crap. You know, parent had cancer or died, their family had a divorce, they got bullied in school, something, you know, physically happened to them that took them out of school. There's a bunch of different reasons. So they may have a lower GPA because one year they didn't do so well, or another year, or it was kind of just like flat across the board because just things kept happening. But they had a really good SAT because they're actually a smart kid and they actually studied for the test. It's just life kind of hit them. You might be able to get into a reach school with that kind of situation. And a college essay is a perfect place to explain that kind of situation. We take you at face value. We believe that what you're saying to us is the truth, but, you know, there's a lot of essays that are like, my mom has cancer, and then you look at the next essay and it's like, my mom also has cancer. It's like, wait, also? Wait, don't you know Billy? Didn't you go to the same high school? So, you know, tell your story, tell the truth. It's easy enough for us to go on Facebook and find out for real. So, just explain yourself. Explain what happened, and usually 19 times out of 20 will believe you and take you at your word. Cut you down?
Don't leave me for RK's sake. You, over here.
You did it. You killed it. Now cut me down before anything else shows up.
I'm gonna get a drink real quick. Where's the golden claw?
Yes, the claw. I know how it works. The claw, the markings, the door in the Hall of Stories. I know how they all fit together. Help me down and I'll show you. You won't believe the power the Nords have hidden there.
Oh, I just like his response to this one.
Does it look like I can move? You have to cut me down first.
Ah! It's coming loose. I can feel it.
And he's gonna run.
You fool.
Never should have come here. Oh! Oh!
They never learn. Okay. So I usually play as a wood elf and a thief. So if you see me just hoarding everything and carrying a bunch of stuff, bear with me. I'm kind of a hoarder. Let's level up. We'll do magic this time. I don't have any bound weapons yet. And I don't even really have any good conjuration spells yet, except for my starting one. Yeah, I'm gonna need that for the boss fight, so I'll do that, and then same thing goes for one-handed. Where was I? I don't even know. Oh, yeah, so you want 2 safety schools, 5 on par schools, 2 reach schools, and then like that 1 dream school. And what I mean by dream school is one of 2 things. Either 1, you're dreaming that you're going to get in there. I say that sarcastically. You know, those are the super selective T20s, Ivy Leagues. You know, if you want to apply to Harvard, apply to Harvard. No one's going to stop you. Just know that it's out of reach for most people. And they do that intentionally. And we'll talk about that in another question. But it also could mean your literal dream school. This is the school that I dream of. I've been on campus. I know people that go there. I've toured. I've stayed overnight. I've met the coach because I want to be on the athletic team. You know, there are plenty of people that are like, I really want to go to the Citadel. I really want to go to Loyola. I really want to go to University of Delaware. And if that's your dream school, make sure you apply to it. The other 9 schools can just be there and waiting, right? Just in case the dream doesn't happen. So that would be my recommendation. 10 schools in total to apply to. That way you're not spending an outrageous amount of money. It's still like $750 if you don't get any fee waivers, but you know, you're not spending thousands of dollars on fees. All right, next question. I didn't ask this person if I could say the question, so I'm not going to say their name. But could someone with a low GPA, and I mean really low, like below 3.0 GPA, we'll get back to that, and a high SAT get into a top-tier school with good extracurriculars and a good essay? There's a lot of things to pick apart there. First of all, obviously you want to have above a 3.0 GPA, just as a general rule. Now, saying that below a 3.0 is really, really low, it's kind of condescending to a lot of people. So I don't like the terminology there, but, you know, phrase it however you want, I guess. Just know that if you're below a 3.0, like, you're not a failure. You're gonna find a place to go to school. You're okay. Just may not be where you normally would think you would go. You may have to go to a community college. You may have to go to a state school when you wanted to go to a private school. It's just, it is what it is. But it doesn't mean, like, you're a failure. It just means you have to go a different path. Yeah, I'll carry that, I guess. Ooh. Let's drop some weapons. I just like the way this looks. I know that there's other better items. I just like the ancient Nord weapons. So that's the first thing. You know, don't feel bad if you're below a 3.0. There are options for you. The other thing is the T20s, the top tier schools. The first question I want to ask you if you really want to go to a T20 school is, why? Because it's prestigious? Is that literally the only reason why? Well, why is it prestigious? Is it prestigious because it has good name recognition? Or is it prestigious because it's your dream school? If it's the school that you want to go to more than anything else, like, yeah, definitely go. I'm not going to tell you not to. If you're applying to it only because, if I don't get into Harvard, my life is over. Chill. Please. Please. One, that's insulting to basically everyone else on Earth that doesn't go to Harvard. You'll be fine. Just like the rest of us were. But the other thing is, if you're only going because U.S. News and World Reports, or the Princeton Review, or some guy online's blog said this is the #1 school to go to, okay. For what? What major are we talking about here? Why is it #1? You know, I was looking at some... I'm kind of a nerd, if you can't tell. I'm playing Skyrim while talking to an empty room about college. You know, I wanted to go study anthropology. I wanted to go to get my doctorate in anthropology. So I started looking at anthropology schools online. I saw the best anthropology school, according to Niche, is Washington University in Missouri. And I started poking around. And it's a good school. It's a good program. Not saying anything like that. But I'm trying to figure out what they're basing that off of. And I really couldn't find any actual reasoning for why they were saying that, right? So, some of the things that you need to consider when you're looking at a school and why it's a good school is... One, and I'm pausing just because I want to make a point here. One, what are their graduates doing? Are all of the graduates in that particular major coming out of that school with a job or a job within the first 6 months in their field? If the answer is yes, all right, you might have a good school in your hands. If that number's below 90%, all right? If they're saying all of our graduates graduate, and 97% of all of our graduates, okay, that's all of their graduates. They have 5,000 graduates a year, all right, and most of them were psych majors or business majors where you can get a job out of school pretty easily because it's transferable to a lot of things, but you decided to go to that school for biology, and you were one of like 5 kids in the biology program, and none of you have a job. You got to look at specific numbers, because sometimes the numbers that they tell you are a little bit misleading. Not intentionally, you know, nobody's trying to deceive anybody, but it's a whole lot easier as an admissions professional to say 97% of all of our graduates than it is to remember the specific numbers for every single major and not get them mixed up. Because if you do that, if you get it mixed up and tell somebody the wrong number for the wrong major, then all of a sudden you're a liar. Nobody wants to do that. So you have to do a little bit of digging. Sometimes you have to call the school. You actually have to call the specific program within the university or college to know for sure. You just got to do a little bit of research. You're going to college. You're going to be doing a lot of research. Might as well start now and start figuring out how to do it right. Secondly, I have a personal problem with U.S. News and World Reports. And that is that they don't know what they're talking about at all. I think I've told this on another live stream. I'm gonna avoid saying specifics, but let's just say that for about 25 years, they said that we didn't have a program at a school that I worked for where we had an entire extra campus dedicated just to that program and nothing else. Of course we have that program. We have an entire college dedicated to that program. There's an entire campus with research vessels and graduates and undergraduates and all sorts of stuff. But you say we don't have it. These things are made up by a group of people that are doing imperfect research because they are trying to do it on 3,000 different colleges across the U.S. There's no way every single year, no matter how many people you have on your team, that you're going to get all those answers right. It just doesn't happen. The other thing that I have working in international admissions with U.S. News and World Reports is that a lot of, and now I'll start playing because this is a little, it's not less serious, it's just kind of more comical than anything. A lot of countries do put out specific rankings for specific schools and specific programs filtered by the government. India does it, China does it, a couple other places do it. And if you're coming from that country and you're trying to apply to a school in the U.S., and U.S. News and World Reports saying U.S. in the title, therefore never claiming that they're a government document, just vaguely sounding like it could be official, people take it as gospel. It's not a government document. It's a third-party company doing their own research, making their own rankings, making their own assertions. All right? If it were a government document, I'd probably have other feelings about it. At the end of the day, my biggest request of anybody watching this video is to do your own research. Find out for sure. Because at the end of the day, there's 3 things that you need to remember. 1, and now I'm going to stop this because I don't want to get into this fight while I'm trying to have a point. 1, this is going to be your home for the next 4, 6, 8, or 12 years of your life, depending on the program that you go into. Make sure you can live there. If it doesn't feel like home, if it's not a place that you enjoy, if it's not a place that you can see yourself living at for the next 4, 6, 8, 12 years, don't go there. Doesn't matter what some other third party said about that program. It could be a fantastic program. But if you hate every day, it's not worth going. It's just not. Number 2, 60% of students nationwide change their major at least once while they're in college. Now, about 20% of that comes from students that go in undecided or general studies or liberal arts or whatever you want to call it. But you have to change your major when you go into those programs before the end of your sophomore year in order to graduate on time. A lot of people are going to change their major. Some people change their major because they realize that what they thought they were going to be studying isn't actually what they're going to be studying, and then they just transfer from like, I was in chemical engineering, now I'm going into chemistry. Cool, do it. It's easy enough. Some people are like, wow, I may have liked science class in high school, but this is a whole new world, and you can go from chemical engineering to English. It's not an easy transition, especially if you've already spent like 2 years in the program. But it happens. Some people change their major because they failed the class. I see a lot of nursing students go this route. You know, you have to have a certain grade. Like, failing is a C in some nursing classes, right? And it's true of other programs. I'm just using nursing as an example. So, you know, they do the classes and then all of a sudden they get a C- in a class, and they're going to have to retake that class. But in order to retake that class, they're going to have to wait an entire year until that class is offered again. Right? So that means you have to wait an entire year before you can retake the same class, which means you're going to have to wait a whole extra year. So a 4-year degree just became 5, right? And you're like, oh no, well, it's just one class. Well, a lot of these classes, nursing, engineering, any of those 3+3 programs that you get, like if you're going for a doctorate in pharmacy and you're doing 6 years to get your doctorate, you botch a class that's required for you to take another class. It's a prerequisite. Terminology, prerequisite means it is previously required for you to take this class before you can take this next one. If you don't have the prerequisite, you can't take the next class, which means you're literally having to wait an entire year before you can go back. So a lot of students will realize, hey, I'm not spending another $25,000 for me to sit here for a year. I'm just going to take all the classes I already have, and I'm going to put them into a humanities major, or a public health major, or... You get my point. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of an unfair system. It's done for very specific reasons. But at the end of the day, you know, if you have one bad class, it can throw you off track. It really can. So students will change their major because of that. Sometimes, if you're like me, you go from having one major to 3 majors because you found things that you just really enjoy. Nope. You found things you really enjoy. I went from being a business major to a business and poli-sci major to being a international business and political science major to international business, marketing, and Asian studies. In total, I changed my major 5 times before I graduated. Still graduated in 4 years. There's nothing wrong with changing your major. The point that I'm making, if you pick a school because they have a very particular class, they're number 1 in this one major that I want, and then you go in and you, just like literally the majority of students will, decide to change your major, you just picked an entire college for no reason, because you're no longer in that very specific major. So if you're going to a tier 1 school, tier 10, tier 20, whatever, for a very specific major, and then you change your major, and the only reason that you were going there was for that major, and you hate the campus otherwise, you're going to end up transferring. And that means you're going to be paying a lot of money you wouldn't have had to pay if you just followed your gut in the first place. And then the third thing, and this is more of a personal pet peeve, the reason that they are very selective schools is because they want to be. They could very easily build more dorms, they could very easily hire more professors. At the end of the day, their exclusivity is their selling point, right? Oh, we're only accepting 8% of the applications that come in. Okay. Good for you. Doesn't mean anything. It means that they decided internally, we only have room for this many students, we know we're going to get this many applications, so we'll just put a hard deadline on 8% or 12% or 17 or 22. Doesn't mean that they're a good school, it just means that they're selective and using their exclusivity as a marketing tactic. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm not saying that inherently by doing that they're a bad school. I'm just saying that using exclusivity and selectivity as your personal criteria as to whether that school's good or not doesn't really matter, like, at all. Counting everything, right? That's 4-year colleges and universities, 2-year schools, for-profit schools like Full Sail or University of Phoenix, vocational schools like, you know, seminaries if you want to be a priest or something, and, you know, trade schools where you go to learn to be a mechanic, an electrician, things like that. There are over 4,300 institutions of higher learning in this country. Let that sink in. If you only care about 20 out of 4,300, you care about less than half of a percentage of all of the places you can learn from. You're really pigeonholing yourself. If you're really that smart that you can get into one of these T20 schools, maybe you shouldn't pigeonhole yourself. Maybe you should really see that the world truly is your oyster and do some exploring. There's plenty of other places that are very happy to have you, that will give you full ride scholarships. You won't have to pay a dime except for like books and maybe the occasional snack off campus with friends. where you're not going to get that from other schools. You know, those T20s or even those top 50, right? That's top 50. Just barely over 1% of all the institutions of higher learning in this country. Let that sink in. Maybe you should think about 2% or maybe 3%, right? It's just a thought. All right. Die. Alright, we're coming up on an hour, and I actually have a podcast that I have to record soon. So woof. Goodbye. I am probably going to finish this boss. Let me just see. It's 3:30. Alright. Let's finish this, and then I will jump on that interview. For anybody that doesn't know, I will put it in the description of this video for the archive a little later. But I am the host of the How Do I Get That Job podcast. You can find it on all sorts of different podcast listening platforms, Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. I'm trying to get on Stitcher, but I'm on Radio Public and a bunch of other places too. So definitely worth checking out. We just released our 5th episode this week. So last Wednesday, 2 days ago. And it was with Pamela Shand, who has a master's in HR, as well as she is a certified professional resume writer, CPRW. And she talks about what it's like recruiting for some Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies. She talks about what it's like to own your own business. And she also talks about transferable skills, hard skills, soft skills, technical skills, kind of really hashes out some terminology for anybody that's interested. Hey, we finally got a pickaxe. So I definitely recommend checking that out, but I've also spoken with a variety of other people. There's actually 10 different episodes already in the can. I release every Wednesday. This one that I'm about to record this afternoon will be episode 11. And we have everyone from consultants to HR professionals to scientists to business people in the finance world. It's all over the place. Medical professions, personal trainers, physical therapists. The list goes on and on. It's really an opportunity to highlight people that are in new, exciting, and I call them off the beaten path, like just things you hadn't considered as jobs before. You know, everybody's like, I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and she goes, you know, she works for the post office. Nobody wants to grow up to be the mailman, right? When you go into an elementary school and there's always those things up on the wall that teachers put up, and it's like, oh, well, Billy wants to be a firefighter. Sandy wants to be an astronaut. Emily wants to be a chef. No one ever says mailman. But, like, it's a really interesting job. You know, working for the post office isn't just being a mail carrier. You know, there's technical jobs. There's actually an entire branch of law enforcement called the Federal Postal Inspectors, which is, I don't think they're a subset of the FBI, but they're very, very similar to the FBI in the way that they function and the authority that they have, but it's specifically just for the post office and your mail. Like, that's kind of intense, isn't it? You would never know that if you didn't know about it. I think there's a TV show about the postal inspectors now. I don't know what channel it's on or what it's called. For all I know, the show's probably already canceled, but maybe it's not. I actually got to check that out. If somebody knows, put it in the comments. I'd love to know what that show is. So, you know, this podcast, How Do I Get That Job, is an opportunity to highlight some of those unknown jobs, as well as some really cool jobs that people want. Like, I'm really happy that I got a physical therapist to be on the show because, you know, everybody now wants to be a physical therapist or athletic trainer. So I think this is a really great opportunity to learn how to do that other than just, oh, I'm going to go to physical therapy school. All right, cool. Which one? What are you going to study? Is there a specialization that you care about? Are you going to own your own practice? Are you going to work for somebody else? You know, this is going to break down all of that stuff for you. Die! Goodbye. Okay. You may notice that this is the 5th video that I uploaded, despite the fact that it says episode 4. The 4th episode that I uploaded had a couple technical glitches going on with it. The first was that my rendering software, for whatever reason, just didn't work properly. And then the other reason is that I had to cut it off like 15 minutes in because I thought the cops were following my girlfriend and her sister down the street. It just happened that they were passing by with their lights on at the same time that my girlfriend was pulling into the house. But I was like, oh no, bad things are happening, I have to go. So I'm actually going to private that video and make this one the official 4th video. Linen wraps. If anybody can tell me what those linen wraps are for, please let me know, because I've been playing this game since the day it came out, and I don't know what they do. I don't think that they actually do anything, but I would love to know if they do. Goodbye. Is that actually better than my regular bow? I think it is. 9. I don't know, the Imperial bow does 10. Yeah, I'm gonna drop that then. Oh, I got a new toy today, and I kind of want to show it off to you guys. So, this is not sponsored or anything, but it is the Utopia 360 virtual reality headset. It's basically a fancy version of Google Cardboard, but you have to take your glasses off. It's very comfy, kind of squishy here for your face, other than like the regular cardboards. So it's nice, but you can't put your glasses in it. So hope you're not super blind. And it comes with this little remote. I still haven't figured out how to use this thing yet. Probably pairs up with some games or some apps I just don't know about. But the reason that I bring it up is I actually use this with my clients as a way to tour campuses without ever having to book a trip or go anywhere. There's an app. It's a free app on your phone. It's a VR app called You Visit, the word you, the word visit, all one word, VR. And it gives you the chance to tour hundreds of different college campuses, from Lebanon Valley College, which is a school that I used to work at, which is how I first heard about it. Small private liberal arts school, like 900 kids in the middle of rural Pennsylvania, all the way to Harvard College in Massachusetts, in Boston, or I guess technically Cambridge. It gives you a chance to not only see what campus looks like, but it also gives you a chance to listen to a tour guide and take a full-on 360 full panoramic view in front of you, behind you, on top of you, below you. Interactive tour of a college campus. It doesn't cost you anything to download the app. And maybe one day I'll do a tutorial on it just as a one-off video on the channel. Actually, I think that's something I'll definitely do. Oh, I should probably... Oh, there we go. So the reason, just totally tangential here, the reason that I'm not leveling up before I go into the boss fight is because as you level up, the more difficult things become. I want this boss fight to be easy. So I will continue to level up while he stays the same level, and then it's easier to kill him. It's a cheap way to play the game. I get it. But it's what I'm doing. So, too bad. Oh, this little puzzle's kind of cool. If you haven't played Skyrim before, you should check it out. It's got like a little bit of everything for everybody. There's puzzles like I showed you earlier. There's fighting, magic. Alright, so bear, dragonfly, or is that a moth? I don't know. An owl. Alright. Bear, dragonfly, owl. Insert keyhole. Bam. But back to my original point. It is a really cool tool that you can use so that you don't have to worry about paying for gas or airplanes or hotel rooms or anything like that. Now, obviously, there's nothing, absolutely nothing, that can replace visiting a campus. There's just nothing. But it's a really cool app that lets you even get a glimpse of what it would be like before you decide to pay to go out somewhere. Like if you live in California but you want to go visit Harvard and MIT, you can check out both of them on that app without ever having to go to that place, because who knows, you could end up getting to campus like, wow, this is not what I was expecting. Whoops. And I don't mean to pick on Harvard. I think I pick on them a little too much. Ooh, he used the shout. Now I'm deaf. Ooh. Goodbye. Dragonstone. Use that later. Got that. Oh. Now we'll level up, and I'm gonna get stamina. So yeah, definitely recommend checking out UVisit VR. If you don't want to go out and buy a headset like this, you know, it's not that expensive. I got it at Best Buy for like 20 bucks. But I think Google Cardboard you can buy online for like $7 or $8. So if you want to go even cheaper, you can do it that way. Some schools actually, both high schools and colleges, are branding their own Google Cardboards. I know that we were doing that when I worked at LVC, Lebanon Valley College, so that you can look at the stuff on your own at home and they'll just give it to you for free as like a little gift or something. So, you know, there's other ways to get around having to pay for it, but I like this one. Fits nice on my head. It's adjustable, and the clients seem to like it too, so that works for me. If you want to become a client of mine, I do both in-person and, oh, I should go get this chest. I do both in-person and online workshops. I teach classes on outschool.com and skillshare.com, as well as just webinars and one-on-one counseling with my website. You can sign up for a trial of my subscription service, as well as a variety of other services through my website. The link's in the description. We finally beat the boss, so I'm just going to clear out of this dungeon here, and then I'm going to go get ready for my interview. Episode 11 is being recorded before episode 6 comes out. Oh, I don't want that skull. Miscellaneous. Let's see what we have. Don't need that. Drop it. Yeah, I can drop that too. And that. Alrighty, and it just auto-saved. So, thank you guys very much for joining me today. Thank you, Amino, and the College Advice Amino page in particular for letting me do an AMA there. I really appreciate all of your questions. I hope you appreciated my answers. If there is anything else that you guys need from me, please let me know. I'm always here to help. I provide, free resources on YouTube and, some other apps so that you guys can answer questions. But if you want to have some one-on-one, very specific, hand-tailored tutoring or counseling services, go check out my website. It's letsgotocollege.one. So just like all of my social handles, Let's Go to College 1 at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those things. My website is also letsgotocollege.one. Thank you guys very much for joining me, and I hope you have a great weekend. Let's go to college.